Hello and hi everyone. So we are from Group 3 from class NBI8A. We'll be presenting about factors associated with the well-being of working adults. Before we move on to the next part, I will introduce you to our team members. Our team consists of Tuan Nur Fatih Hidayah binti Tuan Soh, me, Siti Amelia Kamisa binti Muhammad Luqman, Nur Amirah Nabila binti Kamaruzaman, and Muhammad Saleh bin Ahmad Nafiah.
We go to the background studies of the research, which is in regards of the workers or the working adults, if its effects of their well-being. So in the data shows that in 2020 there were about 14.96 million Malaysian employed, and this means that out of 15.67 million, there are 68% people who are working. So, adulthood is a difficult period in life as adults have needed to face many challenges and problems. Example, there might be a working adult that have to deal with difficulties of the jobs or committing to work or did not have a satisfactions on the jobs, or maybe have less leisure times and or less productivities. So and additional to add on this, they may have to deal with health, mental or relationship problem. So according to the Ministry of Health Malaysia, MOH, 1 out of 3 people aged 16 to 19 years old has a mental problem. A survey conducted in 2015 by MOH found that 29.2% of teenagers have mental health problem to a greater degree than the average persons. Okay, besides that, this leads to there is an increased rate of depressions and anxieties amongst adults, which is these mental health problems are very common among people who works, which sometimes they have a depressions or anxiety that are very common mental problems around the world. So in 2020, for the mental health problem are expected to be the second most common health problem in Malaysia, and 1 in 5 Malaysian teenagers ages 13 to 17 suffer from depressions, and 10.1% of young people have also attempted suicide. Due to this, a lot of Malaysian teenagers are feeling depressed, anxious, or stressed. This, which is really worrying because it means a lot of them have attempted suicide. However, there are mental health services available to help them. In addition, there are psychiatrists in Malaysia, so if they need some help, they will be able to find it. We also find out that urban areas have more people, and this can make people depressed. People in rural areas don't have as many people around them, so they don't have as much stress as people that live in urban areas. There are several things that can increase a person's chance of getting depression or anxiety, including physical and mental stress. This problem is showing an increase, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, because more people are facing emotional and physical stress due to some factors. These include the loss of loved ones, retrenchment at work, the loneliness caused by the movement control order, and the long quarantine periods. The next one will be focusing on the cost of living, which is due to the COVID-19, there are financial crises that have affected many people that cause a lot of stress and problem for people, especially in adults, because there have a lot of commitments they need to meet and stuff. So due to the pandemic, Malaysia has to go through several phases of lockdowns and quarantine periods. This has had negative impacts on the country's economy, as SMEs have been negatively impacted. In addition, the 2-month lockdown has forced companies that contribute to Malaysia's export income to cease operation, which has led to an 8.3% contraction in 2019 rather than a negative 1.7% growth. Following 169 months of trade surpluses, Malaysia posted a 3.5 billion trade deficit in April 2020. This financial crisis has caused a lot of problems for businesses and their employees. Some cost-saving measures included layoffs, which have affected many working adults. This has caused financial stress for them and has made their life tougher. So the unemployment rate is going up because of the pandemic in January 2020. It is 3.2%, but May 2020 it lead to the much more higher than the January itself. It's 5.3%. So due to this, people can have a problem with their finances, which can lead to stress and depression. This can increase the number of people who try to commit suicide.
I will present on the research objective and research question. Our research objective is to identify the difficulties of committing to work among respondents. Hence, it drives the question of what is the association between the well-being and committing to work among the respondents. Our next objective is to identify the level of mental and physical stress towards the respondents. So, we come up with a question of what is the association between the well-being and mental and physical health among the respondents. Last but not least, we want to identify the challenges due to the increasing cost of living of the respondents. So, our research question that corresponds to this is what is the association between well-being and cost of living among the respondents?
As for the research framework, this study aims to examine the relationship between the process of commuting to work, mental and physical stress, and the cost of living that affects the well-being of working adults. Thus, the objective of this research is to determine the factors that influence the well-being of working adults. As analyzed, our dependent variable is well-being of working adults, and it comes with three independent variable, which is independent variable number 1, commuting to work, independent variable number 2 is mental and physical stress, and independent variable 3 is cost of living.
Data cleaning is to guarantee the data quality by checking input to eradicate absent data and verify that all the data are all within proper range. According to the result, there is no missing value detected for our data, which is 0%. Thus, no need to recode the data file, and it was decided to continue with the data analysis.
Now we are going to look at a profile of respondents in the data research. So for the profile of respondent, we go under gender of respondent. We have 64.4% are females, and whereas 35.6% are males out of 104 respondents. Next one, it shows that between age 18 to 22 years old, we only have 1% of respondents, and the second lowest respondents are from age 33 to 37 years, which is 17.3%. While from the age of 23 to 27 years old is 34.6% out of 104 respondents, while respondents from age 28 and 32 years old are 26%, and from the age 38 and above have 21.2% of respondents out of 104 respondents. So the next one we'll talk about the marital status of the respondent is 46.2% respondents are singles, and 33.7% are married, and for the married with kids we have 17.3%, and for there is a single parent respondent with 2.9% out of 104 respondents. It also reveals that 56.7% respondents are in their degree level of education, while for the diploma level education we have 34.6%, and master degrees is 3.8%, while others levels of the education is 4.8% out of 104 respondents. For their working sector, the respondents are mostly working in a private sector, which is 69.2%, followed by the government sectors of 20.2%, while there is a self-employed respondent with 8.7%, and also a business owners with 1.9% out of 104 respondents. So for their nature of work, there is working from home, followed by the hybrid mode and nature of works, which is 18.3% is a hybrid mode nature of work, while 13.5% respondents are still working from home.
The current research assumed that the respondents' data were normal. To summarize the finding of the normality result for the variables, the table showed that the range for kurtosis is from negative 2.026 to 0.535, and for skewness range from 2.467 to 0.144. We can assume based on the normality result table that the data is normal. The result for reliability analysis are being interpreted as follows. Commuting to work has good internal consistency with a Cronbach alpha coefficient of 0.611. Mental health has good internal consistency with a Cronbach alpha coefficient of 0.672. Cost of living has excellent internal consistency with a Cronbach alpha coefficient of 0.862. And the last is well-being, indicating an excellent internal consistency with a Cronbach alpha coefficient of 0.739.
Next part is the mean and standard deviation. The results for this table are interpreted as follows. For commuting to work, the overall mean of all items related to this scale is mean 2.52 and standard deviation equals to 0.380, which indicate that the effect of commuting to work on working adult is almost at low level compared to the median of scale 3. Mental health. The overall mean of all items related to this scale is mean equals to 3.63 and standard deviation equals to 0.467, which indicates that the effect of mental health on working adult is at moderate level compared to the median of scale 3. And for cost of living, the overall mean of all items related to this scale is mean equals to 2.60 and standard deviation equals to 0.518, which indicate that the effect of cost of living on working adult is almost at a low level compared to the median of scale 3. And lastly, for the well-being of working adults, the overall mean of all items related to this scale is mean 3.33 and standard deviation equals to 0.654, which indicate that the well-being of working adults is at moderate level compared to the median of scale 3.
A relationship analysis between commuting to work and the well-being of the working adult shows that there is a low or weak significant positive relationship where correlation coefficient R equals to 0.344. Relationship analysis between mental health and well-being of the working adult shows that there is a low or weak significant positive relationship where correlation coefficient R equals to 0.228. Relationship analysis, cost of living, and the well-being of the working adult shows that there is no significant positive relationship where correlation coefficient R equals to 0.184.
From the table, we can see that the value of R square is 0.178. So this means that 17.8% of the variable are explained by the independent variables, meanwhile the rest are explained by other variables. The table shows that the model is low significant and the model is fit as the F characteristic. It can also be seen from the table that the p-value is less than 0.01 and less than the critical value, which is 0.05. Hence, the regression model is significant. It also means that there is a relationship between the independent variables and dependent variables. As for the coefficient analysis, the largest beta coefficient is commuting to work that have beta value of 0.334. The p-value is 0.001 and it is less than 0.05. All these values explain that the variance is 33.4%, making up the well-being of working adults. So this concludes that commuting to work makes the strongest contribution to explaining the well-being of the working adults. This is followed by mental health that have a beta value of 0.201 and the p-value of 0.032. So this explains that 20.1% of the variance of well-being of working adults. Meanwhile, with a beta value of 1.06, the cost of living explains 10.6% to the variance of well-being of the working adult. However, it is not significant as cost of living significance of p-value is more than the threshold of 0.05. With a mean of 3.48, the question of how often is your household income able to pay for its usual necessary expenses has the highest mean. Following the question was how happy would you like to claim you are, and it has mean of 3.63. Last but not least, the question of in the last 4 weeks, how often have you been angry, glad, worried, or sad has the lowest mean, which is 2.84. Overall, these items got 2.52 on the mean and 0.380 on the standard deviation.
Analysis of independent variable number 1, commuting to work. According to the data obtained from the SPSS analysis, the question how satisfied are you with your commute has the highest mean, which is 5.91, and standard deviation of 2.3545, followed by how dissatisfied or satisfied are you with the amount of leisure time you have due to longer commuting duration and time, which has the mean of 5.50 and standard deviation of 2.434. The lowest mean belongs to the question how to usually get to your place of work, which Mohd used for the longest part of the journey, which is mean equals to 1.37 and standard deviation equal to 0.914. The overall mean of all items related to this scale is mean equal to 2.52 and standard deviation equal to 0.380, which means that most people who took this test disagreed with the proposed items in the instrument.
Analysis of independent variable 2, mental and physical stress. According to the mean result for mental and physical stress, the highest mean belong to my job requires a great deal of concentration. Median equals to 4.48, standard deviation equals to 0.668, followed by I must keep my mind on my work at all time. Median equals to 4.09, standard deviation equals to 0.986. The lowest mean belongs to when faced problem at work, how often do you daydream or wish that you could change the problems? Median equal to 2.82 and standard deviation equals to 1.180. The overall mean of all items related to this scale is median equal to 3.63 and standard deviation equals to 0.467, which show that all the participants agreed to the item as proposed in the instrument.
For analysis of IV3, which is a cost of living, in reference to the data shown for cost of living, we found that the highest means are how concerned are you about the current cost of living with a mean of 3.63 and a standard deviation of 0.624. The second highest will be the questions on how often you lose sleep worrying about the cost of living, resulting in the mean of 2.56 with the standard deviation of 1.003. And the lowest means out of the question for the cost of living is, has your mental health been negatively impacted by rises in the cost of living, which is the means as follows is mean 1.72 with the standard deviation of 0.886. The average of all this item in this instrument research is related to the scale of 2.6 and the standard deviation are around 0.58, which means that most of people took this test disagree with the proposed item.
Relationship between dependent variable and independent variable number 1, which is commuting to work. Based on the findings of research question number 1, there is a low or weak positive significant relationship between commuting to work and the well-being of working adults, which R equal to 0.344 and p-value equals to lower than 0.001. And the standardized coefficient beta value for commuting to work is beta equal to 0.334 and p equals to 0.001. Thus, the hypothesis shows that there is a low or weak positive significant relationship between commuting to work and the well-being of working adults.
Relationship between dependent variable and independent variable 2. Based on the finding of research question 2, there is a low or weak significant relationship between mental health and the well-being of the working adult. R equal 0.288, P equal less than 0.010, and the standardized coefficient beta value for mental and physical stress equal 0.201, P equal 0.032, P less than 0.05. Thus, the hypothesis shows that there is a low or weak positive significant relationship between mental and physical stress and the well-being of working adults.
We're looking at the relationship between DV and IV3. According to the data, we found that there is no significant positive relationship in between cost of living and the well-being of the working adults. And for the standardized coefficient beta value for cost of living, which is beta 0.016 with P 0.256, hence cost of living did not affect the well-being as long as the lower of cost of living, the better the well-being of an individual. Thus, to conclude, based on the result of the beta and significant level test for the cost of living, it appears that there is no significant relationship between cost of living and the well-being of the working adults.
This study was conducted to find the relationship of commuting to work, mental and physical stress, as well as the cost of living towards an individual's well-being. From the mean that was calculated previously, most of the respondents agree that commuting to work, as well as mental and physical health, does bring impact to their well-being. Meanwhile, the cost of living does not bring any impact towards EPJJ students' well-being. In addition, the result from regression analysis also highlight that commuting to work has the biggest impact towards the well-being, followed by mental and physical stress.
That is all from us for now. Thank you for watching.